Now, if you have ever had an unfinished project out there, and who hasn't, right? I have plenty of them. There's a whole lot of reasons why I never get those projects to the finish line. Like, I just don't know how I'm going to quilt it. I don't know how I'm going to finish this. I want to do cute loops and swirls and flowers and hearts and you name it, but I don't know how to do that on my home domestic machine, sewing machine. Or maybe I don't have a long arm machine. Or maybe it's such a small project, I'm thinking I would rather just be able to do this on my home embroidery machine. Well, I'm going to show you how you can do table toppers, pillows, quilts, wall hangings, table runners, you name it, all on your home embroidery machine with the use of clear blue tiles. So I actually had so much fun making this project that I decided I need a new color theme, and it was the yellows and blacks. Oh my goodness, can you imagine what I'm going to quilt on this? Bumblebees, my friends, bumblebees is going to be happening here. We're going to do bumblebees in just a moment because the yellow and black fabrics are just so stinking cute, right? Oh, I can't wait to show you the other ones I did. Now, how am I going to quilt this and how am I going to do it with clear blue tiles? Well, I want to show you how easy it is. We get questions all the time, people posting on Facebook, how do I use clear blue tiles? It looks difficult, or I'm too nervous to try, or, there's all kinds of reasons. Today, let this be your sign. You're going to open up that box of clear blue tiles, and if you don't have it, you're going to want it because they are so simple to use. In fact, I want to show you that there are actually two different sets you may be interested in. First of all, there is the Clear Blue Tiles Essential Set, all right? And as the name entails, this is essential. This, no matter what hoop size you have, this is the one you're going to want to start with. Now, if you have hoops larger than a 6x10 hoop, say you have like an 8x12 hoop or a 9x14 hoop, then you're also going to want to purchase the optional, but here it is, it's the expansion set. All right, which just means it has larger blue tiles in there. All right, so let's go back to that essential set here. I'm going to show you, just like it describes here on the back of the package, you're not going to believe this, that it really is 3 simple steps to quilt your projects. It's unbelievable. Would you believe if I said it only takes 3 steps of placing it, marking it, and then quilting it? Indeed. Place your blue tile down, mark the blue tile, then quilt your project. Wow, could it really be that easy? Oh yes, yes indeed. And the nice thing is you don't have to line anything up. You don't have to make sure like that one end of a line matches with the other end of the line. You don't have to make sure, oh sorry, I lost my earpiece. You don't have to make sure that you don't have to do any math. You can do this with any size hoop. That means even those with a small hoop, like maybe a 5x7 and such, they can use clear blue tiles to do their background quilting. And if you have a larger hoop, oh, it's a beautiful thing as well with clear blue tiles. So here's what I want you to do. All right. So here's my top fabric. And the first thing we're going to do is make what I call a quilt sandwich. All right. You know what a quilt sandwich is. That is your backing piece, your batting piece, and then the top of your quilt. All right. So the first thing I want to do is lay a piece of backing down with the right side facing down. Okay. Well, let me grab the top fabric there. Okay. So just like you would, again, a quilt sandwich. If you were taking this to a long arm quilter, this is how you would make this quilt sandwich. You place your right side of your backing fabric facing down, all right? Then you're going to take a piece of your project batting, and we use the Kimberbell project batting. It comes in a package that looks like this. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at that. Here's what you're looking for at quilt shops. It's the Kimberbell project batting. It is the perfect loft for quilting in the hoop. Perfect. It's just, I like to say it's not too thick and it's not too thin. It's just right. And the other beautiful thing about this is because it has stabilization within the fibers of the project batting, guess what? No extra stabilizer is needed. No extra stabilizer. That is good news, right? I love that. You're actually going to quilt these projects without the additional use of stabilizer. All right, so now here's my project batting. And then I'm going to place my quilt fabric top on top of that. Okay, notice that my project batting is just slightly bigger, about an inch bigger than my top fabric. Okay, all of this is in your step-by-step instructions that come with this package too, by the way. And then you also may have noticed that my backing fabric is about 3 inches larger on all 4 sides. This is the same thing you would do when you take a project to get long arm quilted. You always make sure to make your backing a little bit larger on all 4 sides. So you're going to do the same thing here. All right, now this is a pretty small project. So this is going to be really easy to do without any additional ways to baste the layers together. Normally, we might think, oh, well, I've got to baste these layers together with, safety pins or a basting spray or a basting powder. With something as small as this, it's really not necessary. But if I was doing a larger project, then certainly basting the 3 layers together real quick is something you're going to want to do. All right, but I'm just going to lay that down nice and flat. And then the other thing I want to do is take some of our Kimberbell paper tape. I've got some right here. And I'm going to tape down all 4 sides of this project. Now, the reason why you want to do this, okay, is because your needle is going to get really close to the edge of that fabric, and the last thing you want is for your needle to lift that fabric up and cause problems. So we're just going to quickly tape down all 4 edges of this and get it nice and tight and lay down, and it's not going to move anywhere. All right, now here's another question that comes up. Oftentimes people will say, well, my backing fabric isn't large enough to fit in my hoop. Maybe you have a really large size hoop. Let me get out one here. And maybe your backing fabric doesn't, this one does, but maybe it doesn't extend from one end to the next end of your hoop. No problem. You can extend that backing piece by just adding on either additional fabric scraps, or what I like to do personally is all those leftover fabric scraps that you have from, doing embroidery. These are all just a lightweight stabilizer. I just keep all those scraps because then I can just sew it on to one end, and that extends my quilt, okay, or my backing, without actually having to use that precious fabric, right? So here's an example. I've already done it where I thought, well, if it's not large enough, the back isn't large enough to extend from one side of the hoop to the next, I'm just going to add on a little bit of project or a little bit of stabilizer. This is our lightweight cutaway stabilizer. I'm just going to add that on real quick, and it'll all be cut off in the end. All right, so another little tip. Okay, so with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tape these edges down real quick. Now, paper tape, our Kimberbell paper tape is awesome. It has just the right stick to it, and it's not going to gum up your needle. And then if it does happen to get caught in your stitching, it's not going to be tough to tear it away from it. But where you're right on the edge of that, that's usually just right in your seam line. So no worries there. All right, so I've got all 4 sides down, and now I want to use those fun clear blue tiles. Guys, you're not going to believe this. Remember when I said place it, mark it, hoop it? I meant it. Let's take a look at these tiles. I just brought a few to show you all the possibilities. Okay, you're going to get a whole lot in there. In fact, let me show you real quick. In this essential set, you open up, this has like this magnetic closure right here, and you'll have the step-by-step guide for doing clear blue tiles on all kinds of projects, okay, all over quilting, edge to edge quilting, custom quilting even. I'll show you that. And then on this side, you'll have all the tiles. I believe, oh, there's maybe 22 different size tiles, something like that. And then you'll have some wash away pins. You'll have some background quilting designs to get you started. In fact, the design I'm going to be using today is the bumblebee design, which comes from this essential set. Okay, so I've got my tiles, right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what size hoop do I have? Which tile can I use? Well, say for example, you have a 5x7 hoop, okay? And you're thinking, gosh, I really can't do much with that hoop. Oh no, you can with clear blue tiles. So I want to start my tile usually in the center and work my way out. Okay, so in this case, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take this 4x6 tile, place it here, and then mark it. Whatever lands underneath this tile, that is where your quilting is also going to land. I want you to think about it kind of like a rubber stamp. If you were to place a stamp down on your fabric, wherever that block landed, that rubber stamp landed, of course, when you lifted it up, it would be the design right underneath it. The same thing with clear blue tiles. Wherever this lands, that is exactly where your quilting is going to go, because you're going to end up pulling up the same name of file on your machine as the same name of the tile. They're all digitized to match. Okay, so I have a 5x7 hoop. I'm going to start right here in the middle and I'm going to work my way out. That's possible. What if I have a hoop that's, let's say like a 9x14 hoop? I actually, I was doing some rotary cutting and accidentally sliced that, but so there's a little tape there. But you can see that even like with this size, you can do the same thing. You could start in the middle and then work your way out. But in this case, I'm actually going to start over here to the side, because again, this is a small enough project. This is an 8x14 length, and this is a 16.5 by 16.5 inch square. All right, you'll see how this is going to make a whole lot of sense here in just a moment. So I placed my tile down just like a rubber stamp. Now I'm going to mark it. Place it, mark it, quilt it. All right, so I'm going to take one of my water-soluble pens and let's see. Don't know where my pen, we have water-soluble blue pens for you, but in the meantime, I'm going to use a different type of heat pin here. Okay, and you're going to do a series of markings. Do you notice there's a center dot? Can we get any closer on that? Any closer on that center dot? Okay, with the overhead. Okay, so we're going to mark the center dot right there in the middle. Okay, that center dot indicates that that is exactly where my needle's going to go. Oh yeah, let's get close. Get a little closer. There we go. Okay, so that center dot is right there. And then do you notice some crosshairs? In fact, let me pull up one of these tiles so maybe you can see that a little bit better. Okay, here we go. So there's a center dot, then there's some crosshairs, then there's a little open window, and then there's these little blue corner marks on the sides and corners. This is why you want that. So I'm going to now draw my crosshairs. And you just need a nice light touch. It doesn't have to be very heavy, all right? And once I've done my center dot and my light crosshairs, then I'm going to look at the size window. Ooh, yes, I got one of our marking pins. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think you'll be able to see this a little bit better too. Okay, so center dot, then I marked this, the crosshairs. But now there's this open window. Can we get any closer on that? Awesome. There's this little open window and it says size. Well, the size is also listed on the tile. There we go. Okay, so it says 8 by 14 on the tile. So that means I'm going to write 8 by 14 in that open window. The reason why you do this is because when you go to lift this tile up or this stamp, right? If you don't have that number written, you're not going to know when you go to your machine what file name to also pull up. Remember, the file name has to match the tile name. We know the tile name because we wrote it right there in that window. Okay, after that's done, now we do a quick little series of markings where these little blue tick marks are. They're on the sides and they're on the corners. So I'm going to mark this right here, and then I'm going to go down here. Notice, let's go ahead and see a wider shot. Did my tile go all the way to the end? Nope, no problem. I have another tile for that. Kind of like I have an app for that, I got a tile for that, right? And I can use like a 2-inch tile to fill in that space if I wanted to, all right? So going back to those blue marks, I'm just going to quickly mark all 4 sides and corners. Now that I've done that, I've marked my center, I've marked my crosshairs, I've marked my size in the window, and I've done my little corner and side marks. Now I can lift this up just like you would a stamp and place it in the next area that needs to be quilted. How do I know where to place this next tile? Well, remember this little guy right here, this little tick mark. Let's go ahead and get a little bit closer on that. All right, see that right there? I've lifted this up. This tells me that that was the edge of my design. And then I place it right next to it. I just butt it up right next to it. Kiss those lines together, right? And now I'm going to do a series of markings. I'm going to mark the center dot because that's where my needle is going to drop. I'm going to mark my crosshairs. I'm going to mark my size in the window because it says 8 by 14. So I'm going to remember that 8 by 14 was right. Was the name of the file that I'm going to pull up on my machine. And then I'm going to quickly mark my corner and side marks. All right. Now, since we're on the edge of this quilt, there really is no need to mark these ones on the outside edge. But just to get into the practice today, the habit, I'm going to just quickly mark them. All right, then I can lift it up, and when I go to my machine and hoop this, I know to pull up the 8 by 14 size to do my quilting. Now remember I said that this didn't go all the way to the edge, and I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? Well, you can use there's so many different tiles to choose from. You can use any combination of tiles to be just like that rubber stamp, right? And just move it right along to fill in those spaces. As you can see here, we've got all kinds of sizes, even little border strips like sashing strips. This is a 1-inch size. Yeah, there's so many different configurations. Now, the other good news about this is that, let's go ahead and go that front camera. The other good news about this is that everything is digitized to the same scale. So that means when you do a flower design with this big 8 by 14 tile, and then you do a flower design with the smaller 2 by 8 tile, if you wanted, you'll never know that there was a change in hoop sizes or a change in tiles because it's all digitized to the same scale. It's fantastic. This makes it really simple to quilt your projects on your machine. So say, for example, we've got Hannah out there. Hannah's over here, and she is quilting something with a 5 by 7 hoop. All right. And then we've got Dallin over here, and he's quilting something with a 9 by 14 hoop. When Hannah is done with her background quilting and Dallin is done with his background quilting, you will never know which one had the 5 by 7 hoop and which one had the 9 by 14 hoop, because all the files are at the same scale and they all work in this beautiful fashion where you don't see where one design ends and one design starts again. It's so easy to use. Now, let me show you how quickly we can hoop this and then we'll be done. So cool. I am going to use the larger size hoop for this because I just want to be able to show you in one swoop how this was quilted. But the other thing you're going to want, if you don't have this, that's okay. I'm going to give you a really good way to make your own. But do you remember these plastic grids that we all got with our machines? And we said to ourselves, what is this? I don't know. You tossed it. I think I did that on my first embroidery machine 20 years ago. I tossed the grid. Well, I like the grid now. I like it. I use it a lot. So if you have your grid, then fantastic. Use it. All right. If you don't have a grid, no problem. We have a video on YouTube where I think it's called "If You Don't Have a Grid, Here's How You Make One" kind of a video. We'll find the link for that and put it in the notes there. But yeah, you can make your own grid, and I show you how easy that is to do, okay? There's also, if you have machines, there are machines that will find your center points for you. That's certainly an option too. So there's a lot of options out there. I'm personally going to use the grid here to show you how I do it, but this is going to help me find where my needle drops. Now, when you put the grid on, this center point of your grid is going to land. Let's go ahead and go to the overhead. This grid, this center point is going to land right on top of that center dot you first marked on your quilt. So I have my bottom ring hoop here, right here. I placed my quilt sandwich on top, and remember, no extra stabilizer. I'm just quilting all 3 layers together. And then I'm going to make sure that this center of my grid lands on that center dot on my fabric that I marked earlier. All right. Okay. Now, the other thing is we often get asked, can I use a magnetic hoop for this? And the answer is good news. Yes, you can. So if you have a magnetic hoop, I know a lot of people love using them for with clear blue tiles. But if you don't, I'm showing you, it's super simple to just hoop with your regular hoop as well. Okay. Okay. All right. Now I've got all 3 layers put together, and I am ready to pull this design up on my machine and watch it do its magic. So Hannah, let's go ahead. I'm going to have you take that, and I'm going to pull up the design on my machine. I do need the embroidery arm for this part. We couldn't put that on yet because we had too much stuff. Okay, so now I've got my machine on, and remember, I am pulling up the same file name as the tile name. So what design am I going to pull up? Well, I'm going to find the bumblebees. I'm going to look at the clear blue tiles version of the bumblebees. Guess what? When you have clear blue tile designs, you actually have 2 different file folders that are going to come up on your screen. You're going to have a clear blue tiles folder, and you're going to have what we call block by block quilting folder. That's a whole nother segment, and we can talk about that another time. We do give you directions on block by block though, as well. That's basically you're putting the quilting behind your appliques. That's an easy way to put it, right? You're quilting it block by block. But with clear blue tiles, you want to make sure you pull up the clear blue tiles folder. I'm going to put this on my machine. And I pulled up the bumblebee design that matches the tile. So 8 by 14. And then I put my foot down, and I'm going to press start, and let's watch the magic happen. All right, so it's going to quilt right up to the edge. And then when it's all said and done, you're just going to now re-hoop it to the next hooping, and then re-hoop again to the next hooping, and then you're done. Pretty easy.